Pick up your French-English dictionaries and join a group of battle-hardened warrior nuns, because the only thing scarier than French zombies is the time my girlfriend made me watch an entire season of Emily in Paris.
You don't speak French.
Fake it till you make it.
Kill me. Right now.
I don't have a girlfriend. The Walking Dead returns following one of the franchise's most beloved characters as he must undergo a dangerous mission across the French countryside. And in this video, we'll be taking a deep dive into episode 1 and all the clues that really show just how important this journey is. And make sure to stick around till the end of the video where we take a look at the season trailers for hints on where the series is headed. Now let's get into it. Over Black, we hear the voice of Judith, who you may remember as the biological daughter of Lori Grimes and Shane Walsh, and the adopted daughter of Michonne and Rick Grimes. This is played as we see DARYL DIXON floating somewhere in the south of France. She says, "You deserve a happy ending too," a line from the series finale of The Walking Dead.
Daryl?
Yeah.
You deserve a happy ending too.
And it looks like Daryl is far from this happy ending as he's seemingly stranded at sea on the brink of death. The last time we saw Daryl was in the Walking Dead series finale, where he leaves the Commonwealth in search of answers at the behest of Maggie.
I want to talk about the future. There's a lot out there to find out about, and I think it's time we did.
By the way, if you're curious what Maggie's been up to after the events of The Walking Dead, I did a whole video on her spin-off, Dead City, which I'll leave a link to in the description below. Now, there's a lot of things Maggie and Daryl want to know. Why are the undead changing? How did the outbreak start? And is a cure possible? But that still doesn't answer how Daryl got halfway around the world. Fortunately, The Walking Dead's World Beyond spin-off series offers some clues in its Season 2's post-credit scene. Here we see Dr. Jenner, who you may remember from Season 1 of The Walking Dead, communicating with an abandoned lab in France. There's some French graffiti that translates to "The dead were born here." If Daryl is looking for answers, why not start where the outbreak supposedly began? Dr. Jenner also talks about variant cohorts in France, something they haven't seen in their labs in the United States.
I want to know more about these variant cohorts you referred to in our last communication.
This may be the key to understanding how the walkers known as brûlons came to fruition. These variants have the ability to burn the skin of those they touch, something Daryl finds out the hard way. He washes ashore near the port city of Marseille, as we'll see him uncover tape recordings and a map from an Irish family as they track their voyage to escape the zombie apocalypse. On the map, we can see their final location is Marseille after spending 19 months at sea. Daryl will even use his finger to point from the Gulf of Cadiz to Marseille, and it's the Gulf of Cadiz that the ship captain we'll meet at the end of the episode says he lost Daryl. So it looks like the current swept Daryl all the way from the Gulf here up to the coast of southern France. All we really know about how he got here was that there was some sort of mutiny on a tanker ship and Daryl escaped. Now he wants to get back to America, suggesting that he may have already found what he was looking for. Maybe he knows there's no cure, which would explain why he feels so helpless.
Why not bet on hope?
It ain't my problem.
He also mentions in his tape recording,
If I don't make it back, I want him to know I tried.
further hinting that his voyage was a failure. This tanker ship also acted as a research vessel where Walker test subjects were experimented on. What did Daryl see here that would cause him to mutiny and destroy years of research? With some fish in his belly, Daryl makes his journey to the port town of Biarritz, and I gotta say, I love these shots of the landscape, including zombie-infested Roman aqueducts, something you'd be hard-pressed to see in America. Daryl doesn't speak French, something that certainly would come in handy if he had read the sign outside the abandoned market where he's attacked. The graffiti reads, "Attention, affamés ici," which translates to "Warning, hungry ones inside." Isabel, a nun who will come to help Daryl on his journey, states these hungry ones are what they call zombies. But the most striking revelation after Daryl takes on a horde of them are the brûlons, walkers who have either evolved or were created that can burn their victims. As Isabel notes, these are but one kind of new variants out there, and I hope hope we get to discover some new ones as the series continues. Now, Daryl has actually made it pretty darn far before he comes across Maribel and Guillaume. From this road sign, he's about 15 kilometers from Lourdes, so we can see from this map approximately how far he's traveled. There's also this important scene where Daryl snickers at the translation to Dieu vous aime, God loves you. Daryl has no faith and doesn't believe in God, but as he teams up with Isabelle and Laurent later on, expect this to be a part of his character arc this season. Something will give him that fuel to believe again, and I think that person will be Laurent. Guillaume here plays the blind, crippled man in an attempt to trick Daryl into getting his supplies, but that's not before the three of them are interrupted by soldiers working for the Cause. Now, I don't think the name of their group is explicitly said in this episode. I found that name on a press article, so it could possibly change. The Cause is some sort of political movement composed of soldiers and scientists. When one of the soldiers gets a little too handsy with Maribel, Daryl is quick to set him straight, with Maribel showing just how ruthless she can be. That's our first clue that these two aren't the poor, weak survivors they seem to be. Guillaume knocks Daryl out, proving that he's not really blind or crippled at all. Luckily, Isabelle is nearby and ushers an injured Daryl to the nearby convent where his wounds are taken care of and his burn cauterized. This convent has been operating for 12 years and is part of an alliance of different groups and faiths known as Union de l'Espoir, or Union of Hope. Not much is known about this union other than the fact they have safe houses across Europe, have a main base up north, and are led by a Buddhist monk named Lama Rinpoche. But more on the importance of this in a bit. And before we go any further, just a quick reminder that if you like these videos and want me to cover the rest of the season, please like and subscribe. Every little bit helps the channel out. In a very weird scene, Isabelle the nun washes a naked Daryl and the two see each other's scars. Both come from violent pasts, and it seems Isabelle tried to kill herself by slitting her wrists. Daryl is shown the medieval weapons room where the nuns are trained in combat, but what Daryl is really interested in is Father Jean's radio. Notice how Isabelle locks the door, not wanting Daryl to go in and find out the radio she promised he could use doesn't even work. That's because Isabelle believes Daryl is the messenger, the one who will escort Laurent to the Union of Hope's main base to the north, where he will be taught and trained to become the new leader of humanity. Isabelle and the nuns believe him to be the second coming of Christ, stating that his abilities, perceptions, and compassion make him special. He even drew a picture of a man who looks a lot like Daryl in the sea, 3 weeks before Daryl's arrival. Laurent grew up in the convent after his mother died in childbirth. Father Jean became like an actual father to him, which is why Laurent continues to recite poetry to the man even after he turned into a zombie. The poem he reads is one of France's most famous, called Liberté, or Liberty, and it was written during the occupation of France by Germany in World War II and conveys the importance of holding on to freedom. It's an apt choice considering France is under a new occupation of sorts, that of the walkers. There is definitely something different with this Laurent kid. He's super intelligent, considerate, and says that he can feel Daryl's sadness. He even says,
But you deserve a happy ending too.
The same thing Judith said to him. Now, is this all coincidence, or is Laurent really the second coming of Christ? That'll likely be the big question this season tries to answer. While Daryl may not have found a medical cure for the virus, what if this cure isn't a sort of vaccine, but rather a person, and that person being Laurent? Laurent, after all, does discuss the idea of healing, asking Daryl how many generations he'd think it would take to repopulate France. Now, Guillaume's future is short-lived after he's killed by a Cause soldier known as Caudron. He's looking for the person who killed his brother, one of the soldiers murdered by Maribel. And to save her own hide, she says it was the American who did it. When Caudron sees a God loves you poster at the scene of the crime, he decides to investigate the Abbey to see if they're harboring this fugitive. Meanwhile, Daryl gets his ass as far away from the nuns, believing them to be crazy. I mean, the second coming of Christ? Yeah, right. They want him to take the dangerous route Father Jean created to take Laurent up north, but he doesn't want to do this, especially after finding out Isabelle lied to him about the radio. But while Daryl makes his exit, he sees a group of soldiers approach the Abbey, and we all know he's too much of a hero / nice guy not to go back and protect this group of nuns. In their search of the Abbey, the soldiers come across Father Jean, with Caudron threatening to put the walker out of its misery should they not disclose the location of the American. But that no-good Laurent gets in the way, pleading for them not to kill him. Caudron orders orders the child to be taken to Genet, who we'll see at the end of the episode and appears to be the cause's leader. This prompts Daryl to stab one of the soldiers in the back, starting an all-out war between nuns and the cause. Now, the nuns end up victorious, but not without several casualties, including Mother Superior, who tells Laurent he is, quote, the cure for a sick world. With the nuns buried, Daryl makes a deal with Isabelle. He'll escort them to this Union camp in the north if Isabelle agrees to take him to Le Havre, a port where he might be able to get a ship. Le Havre also happens to be the ship where Daryl was on, has docked, and it has undergone a lot of damage. We can see what looks to be remnants of a fire on these fenced windows. It's here we meet Genet, who orders her men to hunt down this DARYL DIXON. I also found it really creepy when Genet puts her hand on the captain's shoulder and just walks away. Like she doesn't kill him or punish him, it's just really weird, and I can't help but think there's more to that. Now we get to the part of the video where I take a look at the trailers to see if they offer any clues on what happens next. Note that I won't be covering every shot, just the ones I think will be relevant going forward. In this quick shot, we have Daryl fighting who I believe are soldiers of the cause, and if you look really closely, you'll see a sign in the background that says muster station, which you only really find on large ships. So I think we're going to have flashbacks of him escaping that large tanker, and in this next shot, you guessed it, his escape from the ship we saw at the end of episode 1. It looks as though he's being chased by an extremely fast zombie, perhaps one of these new variants. Remember, the guys on this ship were conducting experiments on walkers, so who knows what weird variants they've come up with. Below here you can see an explosion of what might be their lab, and if Daryl found out these guys were responsible for some messed up creations, I could see him wanting to blow it up. These trailers also give us a glimpse of Daryl's journey and some of the exotic locales he'll be visiting, from castles, the island city of Mont Saint-Michel, and Paris, just to name a few. Here we see Genet, the woman from the end of episode 1, who orders Caudron to hunt down Daryl. This guy is named Falou, and judging by the background, this might be one of the safe houses Daryl and the others encounter on their journey north. Now this is really cool. We have Isabelle in the Paris metro in regular clothes. It looks like we're going to have flashbacks of her at the start of the outbreak. I'm curious if we'll also see the death of her sister, who she said also lived in Paris. Back to present day Paris, where Daryl and Isabelle walk past the famous Pantheon building, which has the sign Fouillé draped over the front, the French word for flee. Daryl hands over a knife to Laurent and we see them embrace. I think this is going to be at the core of the season, this relationship between Daryl and this kid. Now this is wild. Is this Isabelle with a baby? If so, could she be Laurent's mother? Isabelle said Laurent's mother died in childbirth. Maybe she meant a metaphorical death, and after she was born, she became a nun. That old her was dead, and she became something new. But I'm thinking this is her sister's child. In this brief shot, check out the fabric and color of the hand near the top right. It looks pretty similar to the sweater Isabelle wears here. My theory is that Isabelle's sister was pregnant, got infected, and they had to operate on her to save the child, who ends up being Laurent. This would mean Laurent is Isabelle's nephew. Cool new zombie injected with a dart. This looks like it could be one of those variants. And check out all these zombies here. It looks like we're gonna have a big battle underneath the Eiffel Tower. That's pretty friggin' cool. I can't wait. I'm really excited for the season. I think it's off to a great start. But what did you think? I want to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And for more bad takes, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember,
Kill me. Right now.